the Trump team rolling along, thank goodness, Donald Trump. And it's just the most amazing time we live right now, because the left has never been more radical in this country, not just radical, but strident and actually making headway. And as Bernie Sanders claimed in the clip he played earlier, saying, his radical leftist ideas 4 years ago, he says, most Americans, that's not true, but a growing number of Americans embrace me. I say, well, gee, we've been talking about this for a while. That's probably right. And they're buying into this radical, dangerous leftism. That is what is happening. And so this election cycle just couldn't be more important. And it's an amazing thing to have the most radical leftist who's ever gotten this far in a presidential primary, Bernie Sanders. And then we have on the other side of the aisle, we have Donald Trump, who, whether any of you supported him in the primary or whatever your thoughts were when he was first elected, many people have come to realize Donald Trump, he is much less of a, Republican official party line guy. He is a pro-America guy. He's a guy saying, we're going to save this country. We're going to preserve liberty in America. We're going to preserve free markets. We're going to preserve borders. We're going to preserve America through strengthening our military. We're going to pull back sovereignty and have the sovereignty of our country live in America, live in Washington. We're not going to surrender to the globalists, to the UN crowd. We're going to have trade deals that actually benefit the American workers. So we have the most astonishing, dichotomy of Bernie Sanders, who is, whatever else he calls himself. He says Democrat, socialist. He's a communist. He loves Russia, still praises Cuba. And then you have Donald Trump saying America. But anyway, Trump, one thing he did, he's pushed on the question of the willingness of cities in this state. In fact, some states, California, designating themselves sanctuary cities and just basically saying, you know what, we're not enforcing federal immigration law. We're going to harbor not just people who are in America illegally, but we're going to protect illegal aliens who've committed crimes to the degree that even after they've been arrested for some other crime in one of these sanctuary cities, when ICE comes along, the immigration people come along from Washington and say, okay, we know you have so-and-so in custody, or, please give us information. Do you have this person in custody? These cities will not cooperate. So Donald Trump never wanted to tolerate that kind of lawlessness, had actually made a decision to have a funding blocked to sanctuary cities. This was funding block that was part of the within the discretion of the administration. And the great thing was it was called the Burn Program, which is one program at the federal level, where the federal level provides money, government provides money to sanctuary cities. And Donald Trump's administration just said, actually, no money from this program, the Burn Program, BYRNE, if you are a sanctuary city. If you defy American law, if you defy ICE, you don't get your money from this Burn Program. And so a bunch of states, attorneys general, sued Washington, New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Washington, Massachusetts, and Virginia. The attorney general in each of those states, they banded together and they sued the federal government and said, basically, Trump cannot withhold this federal money just because we don't comply with federal law. Great news for those who love America. The Second Circuit, which is a federal appellate court, a federal appeals court, ruled, a 3-judge panel of the Second Circuit ruled unanimously, overturning the district court's judge's ruling and said, yes, of course, the federal government can withhold this money from sanctuary cities. But the great thing, again, I always tell you about the difference between, conservative and liberal judges. Conservative judges, what that doesn't mean that you, as a conservative judge, side with the Republican Party. It means you side with the Constitution and federal or state law. You side with law. A liberal judge means you find a way to rule in cases before you that gets to the outcome the radical left wants. It is not rooted in law, not rooted in following the Constitution, not rooted in following statutory law. Leftism is all about anything's justified to get to the result we want. So in this case, you had conservative judges who did not vote in favor of the Trump administration rule because they like Trump, but because actually they follow what the law said. What the law said. The Trump administration was fully within its rights to say, not happening. We're not going to keep sending money to these sanctuary cities. And the statute that they relied on gave them the right to do that. So these judges did not side with Trump, they side with law. But the great thing is now these sanctuary cities are going to be losing money. I mean, I'm sure the case will probably go on to the Supreme Court and maybe other places, but they're going to be losing money because the federal government is saying, yeah, actually, we're not going to keep paying you this aid from the federal government if you don't follow federal law and federal immigration procedures. When ICE asks you gives you a detainer notice, you've got to actually cooperate with ICE. Great victory, not just for Trump, but for the rule of law.